loss of biodiversity. As we expand and require more agricultural land, something has to get displaced, right? And usually the something that has to get displaced ends up being natural native habitat for the other things that exist with us on this planet. We get some fertile coastal lands that we're losing because of sea elevation, sea rise, water rise elevation. The unpredictable conditions are kind of gnarly, so that's getting more intensive storming or more prolonged periods of drought, things that you can't really predict. So it would be that really warm day in February after your chill hours sort of thing. Or a really wicked tornado that comes through or something like that. I don't think we really have tornadoes here, but in the Midwest it becomes very problematic. Dramatic changes to the distribution and quantity of fish and seafood. Now, that's not just because of temperature increase, although temperature increase plays a role in that. It's also because of agricultural runoff. So our inputs for fertilizer and pesticides and herbicides, they all have a significant effect on our water quality, both in the oceans and in our aquifers. And it's not just that, but it's also the byproducts from the cattle industry, so excessive, it's cow poop, realistically. It's all leaching into, especially like the Mississippi River, and then causing explosions of the toxic algae blooms, and then the toxic algae dies off, and it creates these big dead zones because it sucked out all the oxygen to decompose, and so then it killed off all the fish. And these anoxic zones are happening all over the world. Very positive, isn't it? Longer growing seasons in cool areas, that's kind of cool, right? So as we saw that hardiness zone map change, in North Dakota, they'll get a little bit longer growing season. I mean, that's kind of cool, right, for North Dakota? And then the prevalence of pests and vector-borne diseases changes as well. A lot of this has to do with stress in general. So if you have a plant that's already drought stressed, they send off signals that attract pests. So I know that I've seen this, especially in my brassica plants, or even my fava beans. If my fava beans get dry for one day, the aphid population moves in within 2. But if I keep my fava beans well watered, for some reason, the aphids don't really seem to notice them. And that's just one example, but the Huanlan Bing that's kind of pervading everywhere, the citrus greening that's caused by that psyllid, it's moving around. Some of that has to do with globalism in general, so just because we move things from one area to another, things hitchhike a ride and then they find a new environment and they adapt and radiate in there. Some of it is because we have these big monoculture stands, right, where you're growing all of the same cultivar. It's just a magnet for things to come and prey on it. All right. So that's fun.
Don't touch posture better.